So today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite TV shows from the 80s and maybe the 90s too. Now some of these shows are going to be popular shows that most of you are going to remember and probably watched, but some of these are going to be more obscure shows that I bet a lot of you forgot and some of you have maybe never even heard of. But it should be fun. I'm really excited to see how many of you remember these shows and how many of you don't. So let's go see what we can find. Okay, so we'll kick things off with some of the more popular shows, some stuff that probably everybody's gonna recognize. Who's the Boss? I mean, probably everybody watching this video remembers Who's the Boss. I mean, just hearing this theme song brings me comfort. This was one of the most popular shows of the 1980s. It was nominated for more than 40 awards. It originally aired on ABC from September 1984 till April 1992 for 8 seasons. And like I said, I'm sure either you watched this show or you at least remember. If not, basically the show stars Tony Danza. He plays Tony Maselli, who is a ex-baseball player from New York. He is a single father raising his daughter. He moves to Connecticut and becomes a live-in housekeeper. And the wackiness that happens when you have a masculine baseball player from New York and now he's a housekeeper. I mean, how wacky is that? The entire cast was great. Most, I think, young men in the 80s had a crush on Alyssa Milano, who played Samantha Maselli, Tony's daughter, and just overall, it was a really great show. Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. This is one of my absolute favorites, Different Strokes. Again, I'm sure most of you remember this show, extremely popular. It originally aired on NBC from November 1978 to May of 1985. Then for its final season, it moved over to ABC from September 85 to March of 86 for a total of 8 seasons. It tackled lots of serious topics like smoking and drinking and drugs, kidnapping, and then a lot of not so serious topics like Willis putting on a fake mustache so he could date an older girl. One of my favorites is when they go to Universal Studios and Arnold and Dudley are walking around the back lot and they end up getting on the set of Knight Rider. Just a lot of really good episodes, and I think it's gotta be one of the best theme songs of the 80s, right? I mean, it's gotta be up there. And do you know who wrote and performed that theme song? That's right, Alan Thicke. Not only wrote it, but he also originally performed it with a couple of other people too. But yeah, I think that's a cool little piece of information. And I'm sure you know who Alan Thicke is, but in case you don't, Growing Pains, another huge show of the 80s, and of course right there is Alan Thicke playing Jason Seaver. Growing Pains originally aired on ABC from September 1985 until April 1992, a total of 7 seasons. The show follows the Seaver family, Jason and Maggie, and their 3 kids, which eventually became 4 kids, and actually I guess in the end became 5 kids because a very young Leonardo DiCaprio comes to live with them, I think just in the final season. A great show, still a favorite in my household, and it also had a spin-off that's maybe not so memorable. So Just the 10 of Us was a spin-off of Growing Pains. It aired on ABC from April 1988 until May of 1990 for just 3 seasons. And it was about Coach Lubbock, who was the coach on Growing Pains. And in Growing Pains, there's an episode where Mike finds out that there's going to be cutbacks and Coach Lubbock is going to possibly lose his job. So he tries to protest and stop that from happening. But It doesn't help. Coach Lubbock loses his job, and he's already got, I think, 7 kids and another one on the way. So he ends up getting a job at a Catholic school in California, packs up his family, and moves to California. So it's about Coach Lubbock and his 8 kids. I think it was a good show. I used to watch it, but it's one it's kind of forgotten. You can't really find it anywhere anymore. You don't really hear much about it. Okay, let's start slowly moving into the more obscure shows. I guess we kind of already started with just the 10 of us, but we'll keep going in that direction, and then we'll get to some really obscure stuff. This is one of my absolute favorites. This is a little bit of a tricky one, and I'll explain it to you. So, okay, this show originally aired on NBC from March 1986, and then it wrapped up on CBS in July of 1991 for a total of 6 seasons. It originally was titled Valerie and starred Valerie Harper. She played Valerie Hogan, a mother to 3 boys, and she had a husband who was a airline pilot, so he wasn't around very much. He was always out flying. So what happened was the show started doing really well, and after 2 seasons, Valerie Harper started demanding more money. And there was this big feud between Valerie Harper and Miller Boyett and Larimar Telepictures. And now this is from what I've read, so I don't know if this is all 100% true, but based on what I've read, basically they finally ended up giving in and giving Valerie Harper the pay raise, and then she still didn't show up to the first day of filming for season 3, and they eventually just said, you know what, we've had enough, and they killed her off. The star of the show that's named after her, they killed her off, and they ended up bringing in Sandy Duncan to play the aunt of the 3 boys. They, at that point, changed the name to, I believe the full name was Valerie's Family / The Hogans. So the show was originally called Valerie, then they changed it to Valerie's Family / The Hogans, and then they changed the name again later to the Hogan Family. Now, personally, I don't know how the show lasted 6 seasons with all of those name changes. You would think people would just get confused and frustrated and just, you know, stop watching, but somehow it did. And I remember watching this show when it originally aired and really enjoying it. And then as an adult, I remembered the show and I wanted to go back and watch it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. You couldn't find it streaming. It was never released on DVD. Eventually, I found it on, I believe it was Antenna TV was airing the series. So I figured out that schedule and was able to watch it from beginning to end. And it was just as good as what I remembered. I really, really enjoyed it. The crazy thing is, you would think that, you know, getting rid of the star of the show and bringing in a replacement, that would kind of, you know, kill it. But honestly, I think both versions are great. The Sandy Duncan episodes are just as good as the Valerie Harper episodes. I think because the writing was so good and the chemistry between all of the other cast members was so good that it really didn't change much. And the show remained great all the way to the end. So I am begging and pleading with, you know, whoever owns the rights to this show, please release it for us. Put it out on DVD or Blu-ray, or at least put it on streaming. I don't understand why they take these great shows and they just, you know, have them sit there where no one can enjoy them. Please release this show. Now, this is not the only show on this list that I'll be pleading with them to release, and I think this one is extremely forgotten.
All right, put the can down. All right, well, one more second. Put the can down. Okay. All right, Joe, you sing the high part.
You got it.
So, Brothers originally aired on Showtime from July 1984 until May 1989 for 5 seasons. I didn't start watching it till like 88 or 89, and I thought at that time that it was a new show. I didn't realize that it went back to 84. Like I said, it was originally on Showtime. I watched it on Showtime, but I also watched it on KTLA Channel 5, where it became part of the late night lineup, where they showed Cheers and Taxi and The Honeymooners. And for a while, Brothers was a part of that, and I watched it every night. Again, I think a very forgotten show. A lot of people have never heard of this one. I personally used to love watching this. It's about 3 brothers, the oldest being a kind of slow-witted construction worker with a very kind heart. The middle brother, a ex-football player who now owns a bar. And then the youngest brother, the series begins with the youngest brother's wedding, and then he ends up backing out of the wedding and telling his two brothers that he's gay, and which was a really big deal back in 1984. Like, that hadn't really been talked about much on television, so much so that originally they tried to put this show on network TV, and all the networks turned it down. They said they loved the show, they thought it was really great, but they just they were afraid to put that subject matter on network TV. And then Showtime stepped up and said, you know, we'll take it. And like I said, it's a great show that you cannot find anywhere. You can't find it streaming. They never released it on DVD. You can find really poor quality and usually not complete episodes on YouTube, and that's it. So please release this show. Okay, this one maybe not as obscure as Brothers Out of This World. Originally aired on NBC from September 1987 to May 1991 for just 4 seasons. And every time I hear this theme song or see this intro, I'm automatically taken to like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon watching KTLA Channel 5. They used to show reruns of this all the time on weekends on Channel 5. And so that's where this takes me. Like I said, this one not as obscure, so I'm sure a lot of you remember this one. If not, it's about Evie Garland, a young girl who finds out, I think on her 13th birthday, that she is half space alien. It turns out that her mom had an affair with a space alien who then had to return to his home planet, leaving Evie's mom to raise Evie all by herself. And Evie finds this out, and then she finds out that she also has magical powers. She can, like, you know, do this and stop time and make different things happen. And a lot of the episodes revolve around her getting into trouble because of her powers, and then having to, you know, fix these troubles. And she's able to talk to her father, who's back on his home planet. She's able to talk to him through this little glass cube that looks very 80s, and you never see her father throughout the entire series, but her father was played by Burt Reynolds. It's the voice of Burt Reynolds, which I think is pretty crazy. The show did not do very well with the critics. Personally, I really enjoyed the show and still do, and it's another one that I wish they would make more available to us. So Dream On, a very creative and original show in my opinion. It originally aired on HBO from July 1990. I thought it was started in the 80s, but so from July 1990 to March 1996 for a total of 6 seasons. And the show is about Martin Tupper, and basically what you gather from the beginning credits is Martin Tupper grew up with television kind of being his parent. His mother plopped him down in front of a TV, and he grew up watching television. So now as an adult, the show kind of follows him, mostly about his love life, and then also his family life and his career. And so what was kind of unique about the show is they use little clips from old movies and TV shows to kind of relay what he's thinking. So someone might say something to him, and then it would all of a sudden cut to a clip from an old movie or TV show.
I just don't know much about her.
Well, could you find out?
I'd rather be executed.
That's what he was thinking in his head, because he grew up watching TV. So he's got all of these quotes from movies and TV shows running through his head. And I think the reason why I connect with this show so much is, I'm not kidding, that's exactly how my brain works. Like, anytime anybody says something to me, instantly a quote from an 80s or 90s movie pops into my head. Now, I have been very vocal about the fact that I am not a fan of remakes. I do not like remakes at all. However, I think it would be really interesting if they remade this show, have the character be in current times, and then use clips from 80s and 90s shows.
I like it!
I think it might be a hit.
This is the story of 2 sisters, Jessica Tate
and Mary
Soap
Campbell.
was such a great show. I mean, really, I think very underrated. Soap originally aired on ABC from September 1977 until April 1981 for just 4 seasons. So if you've never seen Soap, basically it was a nighttime show that was a parody of daytime soap operas, and is a comedy where they would do the same type of stories that were on soap operas, but they would make them even more, they would exaggerate it. It dealt with alien abduction.
Come on, rise and shine, Bert.
Possession.
Answer him, for God's sake.
Shut up, you quivering fool.
Right, absolutely right.
And just all kinds of wacky stuff. And it was done really well, really great cast, just such a good show. And I have fond memories of watching it with my parents when I was a kid. And then later in life, I talked about it with my wife, and she had never seen it. So she ended up buying me the complete series, and we watched it together. And I enjoyed it just as much as, probably a lot more. It's actually been named as one of the top 100 shows of the 80s, and I agree. I think it would have to be on that list. I think it's a little underrated. Like, you don't really hear people talking about it, but it should be more available to everybody, because it really is a good show. And it had a spin-off. So Benson was a spin-off of Soap, which aired on ABC from September 1979 to April 1986. And it was about Benson, who was the Tate's butler on Soap. And then he ends up getting a job for the governor, and he goes to work for the governor. Another great show, which I think Benson might be a little more known than Soap. I don't know. Am I wrong about that? I mean, Benson went for 7 seasons, and Soap only went for 4. Both great shows. I think you can find Benson on streaming, so that's good. Okay, I'm pretty sure this next one is definitely the most obscure show on this list, and I have a feeling that probably most of you have never even heard of this. So Hardball originally aired on NBC from September 1989 to June 1990 for just 1 season, and it starred John Astin, who you would know as Sergeant Taggart from Beverly Hills Cop, and Richard Tyson, who you know from 3 O'Clock High and Kindergarten Cop and some other stuff. And the plot of this show was very original. It's a cop show about an older cop who's trying to be forced into a desk job, and then a younger cop, and the 2 cops are forced to be partners, and they have very different ideas on how to enforce the law and how to deal with criminals, so they're constantly at each other's throats. And the show had some connection to baseball. I don't remember exactly what it was. I want to say maybe John Astin's character used to be a baseball player, but at the end of every show, I think it was every show, it would end with them on the baseball field, and they'd be, talking about everything that we had just seen in the episode. And they'd be out there on the field playing baseball. And the reason why I know this, and really the only reason that I even remember this show, is all of those scenes on the baseball field were filmed at Chatsworth High School. And at the time, my brother attended Chatsworth High School. So he would actually see them, and my brother was on the baseball team. So he would see them filming this show, and then he would come home and tell us, oh yeah, they were filming again today, I saw this or that. And then when the show premiered, we're like, well, let's watch this show and see what he's been watching them film. And I remember enjoying it. I don't know, I thought it was a good show. I don't really remember much about it. Like I said, it's kind of a very generic plot, but I don't know, I remember it being a good show. So does anybody else remember Hardball? Okay, I think I saved one of the best for last, but unfortunately it's one that I think is a little forgotten. I love this theme song so much. And when I hear it, it sticks in my head for a week. So It's Garry Shandling Show originally aired on Showtime from September 1986 until May 1990 for just 4 seasons. And I think this was such a great show. It was so creative and original. And the reason why I think that is, so if you've never seen it, it stars Gary Shandling, obviously, and he basically plays himself. He plays a stand-up comedian, but he's aware that he's a television character. So basically, he's aware that he lives in a sitcom and that he's just a character on this sitcom, and he interacts with the studio audience.
If you're in a bad mood about your work, don't come in here and take it out on me and my audience. They've been here since 7 a.m.
Oh, yes. Well, pardon me, like they all had something better to do all day, right?
Maybe they did.
Yeah.
He'll do things to change the outcome of the show. So basically, like if he realizes that things aren't going good on the show, he'll do things to alter the outcome. It was just a really creative and funny show. I used to love watching it so much. And then I feel like when the Larry Sanders Show came out, that one became so popular that people started to forget about It's Gary Shandling Show. Personally, I enjoy It's Gary Shandling Show more than Larry Sanders. That's just me. I know people really love that show, which it is a good show. But I think It's Gary Shandling Show was so creative, and it's another one that you can't find it on streaming. They did do a DVD release, but it was really expensive. You had to get the complete set. It was really expensive, and it sold out like super quick. I finally was like, you know what? I got to get this set, and then it was gone. Please, somebody out there, It's Gary Shandling Show, Brothers, and the Hogans, please release those shows. And there's a ton more also. There's so many other shows that I wanted to talk about that we didn't get to. So I think I'm gonna have to do another one of these videos because I really enjoyed going back and looking at these shows. Hopefully I jogged your memory a little bit, got you to remember some shows that you had forgot, and maybe I introduced you to some shows that you had never heard of. And I want to say, and then you'll be able to go watch them, but good luck. Because like I said, those obscure ones are hard to find. But you can sometimes find episodes on YouTube, but usually bad quality and, you know, hard to find complete episodes. But yeah, like I said, more shows to look at, so we'll do another video where we look at more. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.